that sort of thing, so,
Count me in.
yeah. She wants to make it a festivity. I've invited, most of our folks are Democrats, so I've invited Emmanuel Cleaver. I don't know whether he'll show up or not. And I've got Jerry Nolte, you guys know him from Clay County. They haven't replied yet, but they may not come. You know how they are, but it'll be a big deal.
Congress probably in session.
You know, I looked to see if he was, that's not in session on that day.
No.
And he's Kansas City, so he may be here, but hopefully he'll be courteous enough to get back with me.
Any more public announcements? Okay, moving on. Eric?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, as you know, from time to time, we hear from folks that they're concerned about speeding in the northern part of town, and also pedestrian safety getting across. In particular, we've heard Swift and Howell. And so the council asked us to take a look at that, and we did suggest with you that maybe we ought to wait until Gardens 4 was completed, just to see what impact that would have on some of the things that we might be looking at. And that has been occupied now for a while. So now we're bringing this matter back to you for your input and direction. First of all, the first thing we did, which Chief Beamer could comment on more if you have any questions, we just did some speed data. And that data we looked at Swift near 27th, Buchanan near 29th, and Howell near 29th, and data from the roughly a week or so between that we looked at each of those areas is reflected on attachment A, and indicates a certain amount of speeding, not a huge amount of speeding, but some. So that's just for your information as you consider our thoughts further. One of the areas that was suggested that we take a look at was the area around 31st and Buchanan. And after looking at it, it would be our recommendation not to put in a crosswalk in that particular location. We believe the speed and the volume don't really merit it, justify it, and we're just in general also concerned about that particular location and putting a crosswalk in without the benefit of an intersection there. So that would be our thought with that particular location. But we are recommending that we put in a raised crosswalk, which would sort of serve as a speed hump or a speed table is another term, in two locations. And one would be at 29th and Swift, and one at 29th and Howell. That would both create a feature that would slow down vehicles in the area and also create an improved pedestrian crossing. And we have provided a picture of what one of these would look like. Yeah, so there would be signs approaching it that would advise motorists that they're approaching this and to slow down, and then you can see the markings that would be on the street. Those are our short-term recommendations, and so we thought we might pause at this moment to take any questions and input you might have.
When would you have it on Howell?
I beg your pardon?
On Howell?
So we're suggesting one at each, both at 29th and Swift and at 29th and Howell, to create these raised crosswalks at those two locations.
Over to the park.
Yeah, so create a pedestrian crossing, cross from Northgate to the park, to Mackin Park, and then getting across Swift from the Gardens.
We get complaints about that too, speeding over on that road.
We have.
Tom?
I have come across these before. They're very, I won't say aggressive, but they bring your attention very quickly if you're going faster than whatever the sign is posted on there, because they will buck your car and your head will hit the ceiling of the car real quick. I'm all for it. It will slow people down instantly. Once they do it one time, they'll remember it. Because I think if I remember correctly, you're supposed to slow down to either 10 or 15 miles an hour to go over the speed humps, and I might be wrong on that one. But they will definitely bring the people's attention to where they're at, and they will slow down. I'm 100% for it.
Yeah, Bill.
I agree with that. Something needs to be done. I think both Councilman Pearman and I get a lot of complaints, but from some of the people that have to walk that area, go across from our place over there and then over to the park. They're always asking me for more police up there to park and write tickets. And I tell them if they pass the sales tax, maybe we could see more effort up there along that. There's only so many to go around, but it is a problem.
Chief, do you have an opinion?
When you look at the speed data that we were able to gather, I was surprised by the volume of vehicles that were traveling on Howell. That's only 3.5 days of data that was recorded on Howell, and you've got 12,000 vehicles compared to a full week of data on Swift, which was 13,000 vehicles. So Howell carries a lot of traffic. The speeds up there are not necessarily great, but with that volume of traffic and the number of people moving back and forth across Howell to utilize Mackin Park with the new development in Northgate and the Gardens, this seems like a way to direct pedestrians to a safe crossing point if they're uncomfortable crossing someplace else. And because of the placement at 29th, in both Swift and Howell, there is going to have to be, it is a traffic calming technique where people are just going to have to slow down a little bit. It's not as severe as a speed bump. It is much more of a table type effect. But if you hit it too fast, you'll regret it. And so the hope is that it will slow traffic in general because they're going to be there 24/7, and it'll create a safe crossing place for people that are not comfortable on a wide roadway.
Just a couple of comments. You know, I've lived there for 9 years, maybe, 10. And I know when I first moved in, you know, the neighborhood wasn't fully developed, and we would have a lot of really fast speeders through there as they were kind of cutting through. And one of the things you guys told me last year is that, I don't remember who it was, if it was Pat or you, Chief, but is that when the development goes in, people do tend to slow down. And I have seen that. I agree with that. Now that this development's in, I've seen a little more of people being more cognizant, and in my neighborhood as well. But the other side is that we are having more people live there. And so we're having more and more traffic, and we have more kids moving in or being born. And then we have people who park from the park over in our neighborhood and then walk across. And so they're not really used to those. So my point is, one, I learned a lesson in that the more you develop, the more people do tend to visually understand and slow down. But two, I'm still in agreement with your recommendations. I think they're excellent.
One thing I just want to point out, Chief Fisher, and he's not arguing against this measure, but he just wanted to make sure you understood. Fire trucks who are responding to fire would have to slow down just a bit going across these themselves. He just said that the suspension systems on fire apparatus do not handle these well. So it would, in a minimal way, have some effect on fire response time.
Zach?
I apologize that I was a little late. So this raised crosswalk, it's not like a speed bump. You said it's kind of a gradual
Pat, you want to?
raised.
It's only 3 inches in height. And we're going by standards. So you can make them 3 or 4 inches in height. We're shooting for 3.
What's the width, Pat, approximately?
We can make the width anything we want, but we're looking at 5 to 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet for the
Okay.
pedestrians.
That's the big difference with speed bumps, is that they're narrower than this would be.
Well, and I think too, you know, we've got our council people here that know the area, that I believe think that this is a needed issue. Would this cause any problem with our plows, Pat?
No, they're aware of what, you know, they'll be aware of them. It was all these cutouts that we had through Northgate, they got used to that and didn't run into the curbs. So there's going to be signs there, so it shouldn't cause a problem.
Well, and I would back it as well. You know, like I said, I think our council people in that area know the area and know what's needed. So that was a question that I had about about the plows, so I could back it as well.
If there's, if there's consensus for us to move forward with these two, we do believe that we can get them done within the $15,000 that's budgeted this year, so we can just plan to proceed. I hope we can get that done. It's close, I guess, but, we'll just proceed in that manner. And then if for some reason it comes in a little bit above, we'll bring you a change order, but we do believe it would be in the neighborhood of the $15,000 that we budgeted, for both.
Chief, you might want to watch Valerie, because I've seen her going there.
Well, I did
40,
wonder
50
if I
miles.
was one of those speeders that you
You are,
tracked
yeah.
those days, so.
He's got you on film.
We don't video, it just records the speeds,
Okay.
that's all it does. You're
that-
safe.
I'm kind of only half joking there.
If we could do it this year, it'd be great. The summertime's coming along, and you're gonna see a lot of more activity on the streets, so it'd be a perfect timing if the money's there.
Yeah, we do have the budget, so, all right, well, we will
Good,
plan accordingly.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
It was mentioned on there that to put Swift as a T intersection down on 32nd. To me, I thought, oh boy, there's the answer. But I didn't realize we had problems on Howell too. But do you see that as maybe in the future, or?
That's some direction we wanted to get from you tonight. That was sort of our longer-term consideration. Now, that would be a little bit more than the $15,000 that's budgeted, so.
Yeah.
And we haven't actually, because we were just putting this together last week, so we haven't actually gone and gotten a cost estimate for it. But first, we just wanted to see if that's something that you think might be beneficial and acceptable to remove that triangle and look at that. We do think that there'd be some traffic benefits. And if you're interested in it, we can go out and work on getting an estimate for that and bring that to you at a later time.
I'd like to comment on the T. I took kind of a straw poll of the people that live in phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 as to what their personal thoughts were on taking the island out. And I had about 40, 45 people wanting it done. These are the responders, 40 to 45 people wanting it done. 3 or 4 wanted some type of a modification of the island, i.e. a turning ramp or some type of a traffic deal, whatever. They didn't think it through, but they just thought a modification. And only about, 10 to 12 people thought they would like to see it remain. So for what that's worth, and I asked Valerie to give some thought to it too, because her people are involved in that, even though phase 4 seems to be the primary, phase 4 and phase 2, the primary problem down there. But the main complaint is that they turn that corner on Buchanan and they drive up to Swift, and then a lot of them will make the wrong turn and make a left turn there into traffic. And some of those older people, quite frankly, need their licenses taken away, but that's not our jurisdiction to do that. So they all thought that a straight T would be a good thing to have there.
Yeah, I didn't get any major pushback from that either. And to the mayor's point about, that solving all the problems, it does solve or make better, I think, the Swift Street. There is the problem that Councilmember Sanders addressed, which is this coming around Buchanan too fast, and that we've seen that a lot. We see speeding on Howell. We see speeding on 32nd, now there are houses there, and so it's slowed down a little bit because there's a crosswalk to and from the dog park. And then occasionally we'll see speeding in my neighborhood itself. So people kind of cut through from Swift to Howell for whatever reason to go to the park or whatever. So they'll cut through the neighborhood to do that. So we see it in different places, I guess is my point. But yeah, I don't have any concerns with the T.
Yeah, I think most of us that's driven that for years, I think a T would be better management. I don't know how many wrecks we work down there, but I know just watching now, a lot of people don't pay much attention to the stop or yield, whichever one it's got going east. If you going north, then one go east, but either way, they don't all stop. And it's difficult if I think if you're going north and you want to go west, there's a stop sign, and it's hard for me to get my neck back around and watch for traffic.
Back over your shoulder to see if anybody's coming.
Impossible.
So I think a T intersection would be far better than what we have for control of traffic and people actually being able to see. And I mean, that, so,
Would we have any ballpark estimate on what cost would be on that, just in generalization of thought?
No, sir, we really don't. We
I didn't
always
think-
hesitate to do that because we,
Yeah,
we often
yeah.
don't get it right
I
the
just
first
kind
time,
of wanted
so.
to see if you had.
But I think we could probably come up with something fairly quickly and let you know what that is.
Well, now there's support, we can work
Yeah.
with our engineers to get some preliminary numbers.
Thank you.
You know, I might throw out something that, you know, we do have the North Kansas City Road District, and they can do stuff like that. And apparently, they can get jobs done cheaper than the city can. So if you really entertain the idea, you might want to approach the road district.
We'll take a look at that. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
while we're on that area, you know what we did last year on, putting yellow curbs on it? What is that? Is that 28th Street right there? Or, you know, that goes clear through from Howell all the way to, Ruby Tuesdays?
In front of Bossert's and the dog park?
No, that's 32nd.
29th
Street.
Avenue,
29th?
29th Avenue.
And we did the yellow curving so that people couldn't park.
Oh, yeah.
To improve the sight lines at the intersection of 29th and Swift, yes,
It's
sir.
not enough. I go that way all the time, come back from the grocery store that way all the time. It helps, but you still gotta creep out in that intersection.
Yeah, you do. Some people ignore that yellow thing too. I mean, they'll park halfway through it once in a while and.
But even when everybody's done right, and most of the time they do, I mean, most of the time they obey the yellow line, but it helps, but it's still not enough. I don't know what we could do about it. I mean, they really holler if we made more yellow lines probably, but.
If I may,
Isn't that where we're gonna put our parking hump in? So
Yes,
they're
sir.
gonna have to slow down. I mean, it's not gonna solve your sight.
Oh, is that gonna be a park, is that
That's gonna be where the
Tw-
speed bump's at.
28?
29th.
Is that 29th?
Yes.
Oh.
That's where your speed hump's going to be.
Oh, okay,
So they're gonna be slowing down, either that or they're gonna tear their car up.
yeah.
Sorry, Steve.
Well, that might take care of it right there.
I think it'll help, I think because traffic will have to reduce speed before they encounter that raised crosswalk. I also think that, and one of the advantages of the T intersection is there are too many cars that are carrying speed off of 32nd Avenue onto southbound
Yeah.
Swift.
Exactly.
And the T intersection will, by the time they get to 29th, if they're standing on it, yes, they're gonna be back up to speed, but a hard right turn to come southbound on Swift at a T intersection will take more time to come up to speed, and hopefully that coupled with the raised crosswalk will calm traffic down.
I never liked those raised things for myself, you know, kind of like Valerie.
So you
But-
live there, yeah.
But they do work. I mean, I realize, but when I go down Howell, you know, I'm conscious of the people at the park and stuff. It's not that I don't want to go fast, but I don't.
You're old, though.
But anyway, it all sounds like good ideas to me.
All right. We'll
Okay,
proceed accordingly. That's all we have, sir, for tonight.
you want to, in other words, you're going to go ahead with the raised bumps? And
Yes, we will do that based upon your indication and based upon the fact that it's already budgeted. And then we'll work on getting an estimate for removing the island and let you know what that is and get further direction from you.
And did you say there's going to be warning signs about the bumps are coming?
Yes, sir. If you look in, I don't know if you have your memo, but we actually have a picture
I
of
don't
kind of what they look like.
don't
It's
have
yellow diamond signs.
Mayor's not sharing it.
It's a yellow or light green.
Oh, yeah, slow, yeah.
Even I can see that.
I'm still not letting you drive.
No. Move to adjourn then, if there's nothing else.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.